So imagine you're trying to figure out the future of humanity, but instead of looking at our most advanced, mind-bending technology, you decide to pull on just a single, unexpected thread: human connection. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to explore a massive paradigm shift about what it actually means to be human in the age of artificial intelligence. We spend so much time looking outward, looking up at these monumental technological achievements on the horizon, that we completely forget to look inward. So we're going to take a walk together. We'll go from a seemingly simple data inquiry all the way to a fundamental reimagining of our entire social fabric. Believe it or not, this whole concept didn't start as some grand manifesto about the human condition. It actually started with a really weird question posed to an AI on Father's Day of all days: who causes the most harm in society? Now, at first glance, we thought this would just be a standard kind of grim dive into crime statistics, risk assessments, and demographic data. And yeah, the initial data pointed exactly where you'd expect, toward young men, toward specific socioeconomic indicators. But as researchers kept pulling on that thread, the data just refused to play nice. It led somewhere entirely different, taking us on this sudden journey from cold, hard data points straight into the deepest vulnerabilities of the human heart. I mean, just look around. You see it, right? We're living in these hyper-connected, jam-packed cities, but our internal metrics are just collapsing. Anxiety, loneliness, polarization, crime, addiction. It's wild. We literally carry devices in our pockets that can access the entirety of human knowledge, yet we just stare at our screens while political arguments rage and people feel completely unseen. It presents this profound paradox. If our brilliant technology is advancing so rapidly, and we're wealthier than any generation in history, why are these fundamental metrics of human well-being getting so much worse? Are we pouring all of our absolute genius into solving the wrong problems? To figure out the root connection between these seemingly separate societal failures, we had to ask a much deeper question. What actually ties all these things together? The angry young man, the extreme political polarization, the isolated addict, the profoundly lonely individual. What's the link? If you look at these issues in isolation, you just end up creating a dozen different government programs, a dozen different therapies, a dozen different task forces. But what is the actual common denominator beneath the crime and despair? We have to look past the chaotic surface of these behaviors to see what is fundamentally broken beneath the ground. Well, the answer is buried in the roots. Studies usually focus entirely on the superficial symptoms of bad behavior, but they completely miss this hidden variable: relational injury. We're talking abuse, neglect, trauma, isolation, betrayal. When people are fundamentally disconnected or deeply hurt by those around them, the societal symptoms just explode. We've literally been spending billions of dollars trying to police the crime, medicate the anxiety, and legislate the polarization, completely missing the foundational relational injury that causes a person to act out or completely shut down in the first place. Now, this brings us to a word we have to define incredibly carefully. The word is love. But hold on, scratch the Hollywood romance and the greeting card stuff. We are talking about a clinical, structural definition. Love is the experience of being seen, valued, protected, understood, connected. When a human being lacks this specific experience, they break. Their nervous system misfires, their worldview goes dark, and their behavior destabilizes. But when they have it, they flourish. This kind of love isn't some luxury or a soft, optional bonus to a good life. It is the absolute core biological and psychological necessity of our species. And the sheer power of this kind of connection is absolutely astounding. Researchers see it over and over again. Having just one, literally just one, stable, protective relationship can completely alter a person's life trajectory and prevent a crisis. A mentor, a teacher, a coach, they act as an absolute anchor in a chaotic world. But get this. Perhaps the most incredible, surprising fact in all this research is the inclusion of rescue animals. It doesn't even have to be human. A dog or a cat can provide that biological anchor of being seen and valued that is required to literally save a human life from despair. That is how desperate we are for connection and how transformative it is when we find it. Which kind of brings us to the elephant in the room, our modern collective anxiety about machines. We are absolutely terrified of AI taking our jobs, rendering our skills completely obsolete, and basically ending our usefulness. But what if we're focused on the entirely wrong threat? What if artificial intelligence is just a mirror, and the real, imminent danger is actually our massive global love deficit? What if the true existential risk to our civilization isn't the code being written in Silicon Valley, but the connections we're failing to make in our very own neighborhoods? We really need to flip the paradigm here. We've been so obsessed with asking how powerful and capable AI can become that we completely forgot to ask what kind of civilization we actually want to build with it. The real danger is that we are handing these incredible, godlike tools to a society that is still deeply, deeply underdeveloped in how it handles empathy, connection, and mutual care. We measure compute power, we measure processing speed, but we have completely failed to scale our capacity for human emotional maturity. Because right now, our systems are ruthlessly optimized for things like gross domestic product, raw productivity, and digital engagement, which, let's be honest, usually just means screen time and outrage. But imagine if we built a new social contract. Imagine if we shifted our collective focus to measure our success as a species not by how much we produce or consume, but by how well we ensure that every single person experiences flourishing, dignity, purpose, and a profound sense of belonging. Seriously, what would our schools, our workplaces, and our cities look like if those were our actual key performance indicators? Instead of being terrified of replacement, what if artificial intelligence is actually the ultimate liberator? Think about it. A machine can calculate, sure. It can predict, it can automate incredibly complex supply chains, but a machine absolutely cannot genuinely care. It cannot offer true resonant belonging. What if AI handles the raw productivity so humanity is finally freed up to return to the deeply connective tasks that only humans can truly provide? Things like dedicated caregiving, complex human mediation, animal welfare, and genuine community building. What if tech does the work so we can finally do the caring? We have these incredibly complex early warning systems for earthquakes and massive algorithmic systems to prevent financial crashes. Now imagine if we applied that exact same genius and that same level of funding to human connection. Imagine if belonging became a true national priority. What if every child had a trusted adult? What if we optimized our entire society to ensure that before someone became broken, angry, isolated, or harmful, they were simply noticed, valued, intercepted with care before the fracture ever occurred? And this is a realization that completely transcends politics, religion, and culture. In a world that feels so deeply divided by ideology, this is the universal truth of the human condition. As any skilled mediator will tell you, the second people stop seeing each other as abstract problems or enemies and start seeing each other as vulnerable human beings, the impossible suddenly becomes achievable. Connection is the ultimate antidote to the destruction we see in the world. It is literally the only force capable of healing the root rot of relational injury. At the end of the day, every civilization chooses what it worships. We can keep worshiping power, wealth, and endless technological expansion just for the sake of it, or we can choose to advance through applied wisdom. The future isn't some sci-fi battle of humanity versus AI. The future is humanity deciding whether it wants to become more human with the help of the tools we create. We already possess the technology to fundamentally change the world. The real question is, do we possess the courage to change ourselves? So our future isn't going to be determined by how intelligent our machines become. It's going to be determined by whether we become wise enough to truly care for one another. Are we just here to compete, to produce, and to consume until the end of our days? Or are we here to learn how to deeply care for each other, for this planet, and for everything living on it? If a machine asked us what humanity is actually for, what would your answer be?